Guys, Lincoln Shrike here, bringing you another episode of the FloXC Division II and Division III show. On this week's episode, we're going to highlight all the action that went down at Division III pre-nats on the national championship course there at Oshkosh. While the Division I meet was going down, we had the D3 one happening at Oshkosh, where they will host nationals on November 17th. Some surprises there, also some not so surprises, as North Central was very dominant. On the women's side in Division II, we're also going to highlight some changes up top on both the individual and team side. So stick with us. Let's roll through the lineup now. We'll start with North Central and Mr. Drew Patel getting his third straight win to start the season. There's really no question at this point he's the individual favorite. On the team side, though, it was a matchup between 1 and 3, North Central, the two-time defending national champions, and number 3 team in the country, Washington University out of St. Louis. After the meet, though, there was absolutely no question that North Central is the number 1. They went 1, 2, 5, 8, 25 to thoroughly dominate, 41 to 97. It featured 5 top 10 teams, so it truly was a pre-national meet on the D3 side, led by Mr. Drew Patel. They also had Matt Osmolsky up there, Matt Norvell, Al Baldonado, guys that are really going to figure to be All-Americans for the North Central Cardinals, and they prove once again that in all likelihood it looks like a national title. Number 19 is going to be coming back to North Central this season. I did want to highlight Patel, his third straight win, and he's really secured his spot as the individual favorite coming this season. We know North Central's had, this team success year over year over year, but relative to all the success they've had on the team side, they actually haven't had as many individual national champions in cross country, at least as many as you would think, given their success on the team side. The last time they actually had a national champion individually in Division III cross country was in the year 2000, Tim McCoskey. Drew Patel is a guy that can absolutely change that. He won by over 10 seconds this past weekend in Oshkosh, and he is just looking fantastic on a whole new level. He had a great track season, and he is certainly the man to watch as we get into the postseason and on to nationals. Now, we'll stick with Patel up on the screen there, but we do have some new teams up in the top 10. The Calvin men, after their impressive third-place finish out at the Oshkosh pre-national meet, they move into number 4. Johns Hopkins, they win the Rowan Interregional team battle out there in New Jersey. They will slot into number 6, and then SUNY Geneseo, they'll go to number 8. So 3 new teams into the top 10 after this past weekend, and so a lot of changes behind North Central, but of course the Cardinals, the favorites, the best team in Division III history, they will stick up top. Okay, so we'll switch it over to the women's side. Johns Hopkins, they did not compete at Oshkosh at pre-nats, but they did compete at the Rowan Interregional meet, and they dominated thoroughly. They beat SUNY Geneseo, our 4th-ranked team, 33 to 84. They went 3, 4, 6, 9, 11 with their scores, led by this woman here, Sam Levy, a Blue Jay who didn't make the Nationals roster last year for Johns Hopkins, but she finished ahead of Ellie Clausen, just a spot ahead. But Ellie Clausen's our top returner in Division III, so that is certainly no joke. And Levy's place at the top of the Blue Jays roster is significant because JHU has been running without returning All-American Natalia Lespeda. So it looked like for a point in the season that there was going to be kind of an empty roster spot that maybe would make Hopkins vulnerable. Well, all of a sudden, with her third-place finish this week at Rowan, it looks like Sam Levy's going to fill that spot. Her best finish at Nationals is only 224th, but she has made a tremendous jump in the last year. Again, didn't even make the NCAA roster last year. Now, after this week, she is running as Hopkins number 1, a significant jump there. Hopkins still looking strong up top, trying to go for another title in 2018. Okay, so when we jump back to Oshkosh, and we're going to highlight the Washington University women, because while Johns Hopkins was winning out in Rowan, there was a battle for number 2 and number 3 between Washington University and MIT, and it was all Wash U at that meet, led by Paige Lawler, who we'll see here, and Allie Wayne. The Bears put 2 in the top 5 and completely dominated MIT there, 70 to 108. So if you're looking for a team that can potentially challenge Johns Hopkins coming up later this season, it is no doubt it's going to be Washington University. Now, they don't have the complete 5 like Hopkins does, but again, on a really good day, led by this woman here, Paige Lawler, and her All-American teammate there, Allie Wayne, this is a team that can potentially give a run at Hopkins when we get to nationals. And it's certainly, you know, it's Hopkins can be vulnerable on a tough day, and this group here, again, led by Lawler, can certainly lead that charge and possibly upset Hopkins for a national title. Now, the winner there at Oshkosh was kind of a lady that had been under the radar a bit. She was only 22nd at nationals last year, and she was 10th ranked in our FloXC individual D3 women's rankings coming into the meet. But Claire Lamb of Otterbein gets the win, and she's going to jump all the way from 10th on the individual rankings to 2nd this week. So Lamb really has an impressive weekend there at Oshkosh. She beats several people, like we mentioned, Lawler and other women who have beaten her previously at Division III Nationals. She's going to move up 8 places from 10th to 2nd. So big weekend for her. She won by 8 seconds there. But like we mentioned, she went from 10th to 2nd. That means who's the new number 1? Because it was Ellie Clausen who got beat by her own teammate. So we have a new number 1, and her name is Caitlin Mooney of Coast Guard. She was 4th last year at Division III Nationals as just a freshman. She kind of had some up and down races earlier this season, but after beating those 2 from Johns Hopkins, I'm comfortable at this point in the season putting her at number 1. Again, was the 2nd returner coming back after D3 Nationals, only a sophomore, and she competes for Coast Guard. Can you imagine like what else she has to do throughout her week besides just training to be an All-American, to be a national title contender throughout the week? She beat previously unbeaten Natalie Betez of Tufts easily at the Connecticut College XC Invite, and that is going to elevate her at this moment to the new number 1 spot. Again, she was 4th last year. Overall, though, while she has the new number 1 spot, the point on the Division III individual side is it's going to be really wide open. Last year's national champion, Kaya Kurtenbach, graduated, so there is just a individual title there for the taking. Possibly it's going to be Mooney. It could be Betez. It could be one of the Hopkins ladies. It could also be somebody from Washington University, Lawler or Wayne. Really, it's going to be a wide open race. It's going to be great to see who emerges as the favorite heading into the next month. At this point, though, it is going to be Caitlin Mooney of Coast Guard. Okay, so that will wrap up our D3 recap for the week, and I'm getting word that we have some questions coming in from Facebook. Go ahead and hit me with those before we get on to the D2 women.
Well, we took a poll.
Yes.
North Central men, 100% of people think they should be the favorite. 67% of people think Johns Hopkins should be the favorite.
Yeah, and I think that's about accurate. I mean, 100%. That's obviously as confident as you can get there. North Central trying to win their 3rd straight title, and they dominated one. I mean, they won by 56 points at nationals. You can't do much better than that. And again, they have multiple All-Americans coming back. They actually lost their number 1 from last year, who had to depart the team, but Drew Patel's on a completely different level. Hopkins, they while they're solid again, and they proved it this weekend at Rowan, they definitely have some more challengers. Like Washington University is a team that has multiple All-Americans, has those low sticks that could, you know, if Hopkins doesn't run perfectly at nationals, could challenge. So we will move on now to the Division II women, and we have a new number 1 on the team side, and it is the defending champions, Adams State. We had Grand Valley up top for a while there as they brought in the top transfer in the country, Sarah Berger, but they had a lackluster week at the Bradley Classic there in Peoria, Illinois, and given the fact that this Adams State squad lost to Stanford only by 7 points at the Stanford Invitational, again, Stanford, one of the best women's programs in the country. This Division II squad only lost to them by 7 points, where Stanford was running a lot of their top guns. I think it's due time to put the Adams State ladies up at top for the first time this season. And while they haven't really raced a ton, and they haven't raced at all in October thus far, this move really has to do with Grand Valley State's, well, there's no other way to say it. It's kind of their fall here. They only finished 4th at the Bradley Classic. Yes, that had a lot of Division I teams, But the Lakers' 5th runner at that Bradley invite was only in 96th place. So while the Lakers do have that top-end talent there with Allie Ludge and Sarah Berger being the top returner in Division II this year, they're not really showing strong all the way through 5 runners right now. And so I'm not comfortable having them on top. We are going to put the Adams State ladies up there for now, as they have looked fantastic, led by Eilish Flanagan, one of the twins here that you see there. She was 4th at Stanford, and she'll slot up to number 3 in our FloXC rankings. The 2 Flanagan sisters leading that Grizzly squad. And at this point in the season, coming up on RMAC championships, it'll be conference and then regionals and obviously nationals. Nationals aren't all the way until December, so the Grizzlies taking the season a little bit slower, but you have to like Adams State at this moment. They are looking strong as Grand Valley State kind of tumbles a little bit. And Grand Valley State, we're actually going to slot them at 3. We'll slot Western Colorado, who looked really impressive at Lewis. We'll move up to number 2. So the new order will be Adams State 1, Western Colorado 2, and Grand Valley State 3 for this week update in Division II. So we mentioned the new changes of the teams. We'll slot on to a new change in the individual race. This is a significant jump, as it's going to be Sophie Seward, the lady on the right side of your screen there from Western Colorado. She will move from the 10th spot all the way to the number 1 spot, because we're going to drop Sarah Berger down from Grand Valley State, who was our number 1. And given her win there at the Lewis crossover, that's Sophie Seward, we will put her at the new number 1 spot, the redshirt senior from Western Colorado, beating her 8-time national champion teammate there at Lewis 2 weekends back. It's going to be Seward, number 1. She's your new NCAA favorite. She didn't run on the cross-country course last year, but having a marvelous season thus far, and she is your NCAA favorite at this juncture. And again, it has a lot to do with Grand Valley State kind of having a little bit of a rougher weekend in Bradley last week. Now, it could be precipitated, of course, by a big heavy block in training. They're just training through that race. But again, Seward looking the strongest thus far in Division II. So now on, as we kind of wrap up the program, to the Division II men's side, we still have our top 2 squads, we have Adams State led by Sydney Getabude, and then, of course, Grand Valley State. Adams State number 1, Grand Valley State number 2. Panning is the still the number 1 favorite. He won his 3rd race of the season this past weekend at Bradley in really a dominant fashion over some solid Division I teams. If you remember Josh Meyer from the B race at Nuttycombe, he easily beat him, and he also beat his teammate Enel Wodamaikal. So Grand Valley State, we mentioned they're number 2. They've actually been number 3 for the majority of the season. They're going to leapfrog Colorado Mines this week. Mines has been idle for a lot of the season. I realize that, again, that the Division II season doesn't wrap up till December, but Mines has not raced at all. Some of their top guys have literally not touched the cross-country course so far this season. So when you don't race, you really can't expect to be high ranked up. That's why Grand Valley State, who's raced a bunch and had some impressive performances from Panning and Enel Wodamaikal, they are going to jump up into the number 2 spot behind Adams State. But what can you say more about Adams State? They have been fantastic in the early portions. They're not going to race at all in October. They didn't race in this midpoint this season. They're not going to race at that D2 pre-nets coming up this upcoming weekend. They're going to save all their energy for RMAC and beyond. So Getabude, we won't see him again until D2 conference weekend, November 3rd. But he's been impressive thus far, running up with the top guys at the Stanford Invitational. He's got 13:29 5K speed. So again, number 1, Adams State, number 2, Grand Valley State, and then Colorado Mines behind them. Those are your 3 favorites on the men's side in Division II. Okay, it looks like we have a Facebook question.
More poll results here.
Yeah, let's go for it.
D2 poll results. Western Colorado women, 60%.
Think they're as the favorite.
Yeah, so for Adams, and then on the men's side, 50% Adams State, 25% Grand Valley, and then 25 Colorado School of Mines.
Yeah, I'll highlight the women first. Western Colorado, they have a fantastic top 4. I'm going to be interested to see how they match up at RMAX. I know Adams State in the past has kind of used RMAC as a meet to train through and really prepare for nationals, but Western Colorado has a solid top 4. We've highlighted them all season. The 2 Konachek sisters, who are All-Americans Alicia is an 8-time national champion on the track. Sophie Seward is their new number one, the new number one in the country, as she's beaten them at all the meets so far. So they're loaded. They also have an All-American transfer in Kennedy Rufner, excuse me. Western Colorado is looking fantastic, and certainly, again, as we move them into number 2, they are the chief squad that we think can challenge Adams State this season. But I do think Adams State, only losing to the Stanford Cardinal women, a team ranked in the top 10 in Division I by 7 points at Stanford Invitational. Adams State women are solid. And 50% think that the Adams State men are going to win. You better elevate that a little bit more. Adams State men are on a whole nother level. Again, they bring back, I believe it's 4 All-Americans when you talk about Gita Bude, Kale Adams, Elias Gedeon, and Joshua Joseph. I can't see that. They're not beatable. Those are 4 men who have finished in the top 10 at nationals previously in Division II. Adams State men. I'm going to call it here. We can make whatever wagers we want, but the Adams State men are unbeatable at this point in the season, and I think they'll dominate at nationals. So that's it. Thank you for your responses on Facebook. You can watch this archive later on the site, and please leave any questions, responses, and comments, criticisms that you have. Again, my name is Lincoln Shrike. This has been the October 16th version of the FloXC Division II and Division III show, and I am out until next week. Thank you.